I learned early that people don't wait for broken things. Not in places like this. Not under lights that cost more than my entire apartment. Not where every glance feels like a quiet judgment you're supposed to pretend you don't hear. So when the manager's voice cut through the room and told me I needed to leave, I didn't argue. I just tightened my grip on the cold metal rim of my wheelchair and nodded like I'd done something wrong. Like existing here was a mistake I should apologize for. The marble floor beneath me felt too smooth, too perfect. Every small push of the wheels echoing louder than it should, drawing eyes I didn't want. Eyes that slid over me with that same familiar mix of pity and discomfort. Like I was something fragile but inconvenient. Something that didn't belong next to crystal glasses and tailored suits and women who wore confidence like it was stitched into their skin. I kept my chin up anyway, because that was the only thing I still controlled, the only thing. I refused to let them take. Even as the cold air from the open doors brushed against my arms and reminded me I wasn't inside anymore. Not really. We have standards, the manager said, softer this time, but not kinder, like lowering his voice made it less cruel. And somewhere behind him a woman laughed, light and sharp, the kind of laugh that didn't need to be loud to be heard. This isn't a charity, she added, and that one landed, not because it was new, but because it wasn't, because I'd heard versions of that sentence my whole life, dressed up in different words, delivered with different smiles, but always meaning the same thing. You don't belong here. I exhaled slowly, steady, practiced, the way I used to before presentations back, when I still stood on my own 2 feet, before everything changed, before a single moment rewrote the shape of my life. And for a second, just a second, I let myself remember what it felt like to walk into a room without calculating exits, without measuring distance in inches and slopes, without wondering who would look at me like I was already less than them. Then I let it go, because holding on to that version of me only made this one harder to carry. I'm leaving, I said quietly. More to myself than to them, my voice calm, controlled, the only armor I had left, and I turned the wheels again, pushing forward, ignoring the way my hands trembled just slightly against the rubber, ignoring the heat rising behind my eyes that I refused to let fall. Not here, not in front of them, not where they could mistake it for weakness. The night air hit me fully now, cooler than I expected, wrapping around me like a reminder that outside was always easier than inside, because at least, out here, no one pretended I was invisible while staring straight at me. I reached the edge of the curb and paused, just for a second, because even something that small still required planning, still required effort, still reminded me of everything I had lost. And that was when I heard it. Not loud, not dramatic, just the quiet, deliberate sound of a car door closing somewhere behind me. Heavy, expensive, final. The kind of sound that didn't belong to people who got asked to leave. The kind of sound that meant someone important had just arrived, and I didn't turn around. Not yet, because I didn't need to. I felt it instead. The shift in the air, the way conversations inside softened, the way silence stretched just a little too tight, like the entire room had suddenly remembered how to hold its breath. And for the first time that night, something inside me stilled. Not fear, not exactly, something sharper, something that felt like the moment before a storm breaks, and I didn't know why, but my fingers stopped trembling on the wheels, like some part of me already recognized what my eyes hadn't seen yet. I did not turn around right away because I had learned that some moments change everything the second you acknowledge them, and part of me was not ready to find out what this one would cost. But the silence behind me kept stretching, pulling tighter with every second until it felt like the entire street had paused just to listen. And then I heard footsteps, slow, measured, not rushed, not uncertain, each one landing with a kind of quiet authority that made the hair on my arms rise despite the cold. And I knew without looking that whoever was walking toward me was not someone who ever got told to leave. Emily, the voice said, low, controlled, and my breath caught, because there are some voices your body remembers before your mind allows it to, voices that settle somewhere deep in your chest and refuse to be forgotten. I closed my eyes for half a second, steadying myself, because I had promised I would not let him see me like this again. Not out here, not pushed aside like I was something disposable. But it was already too late. I turned slowly, my hands still resting on the wheels, and there he was. Adrian Cole, standing a few feet away, dark suit perfectly fitted like the world had been built around him instead of the other way around. His gaze already on me, not scanning, not searching, locked, like he had found exactly what he was looking for and did not like what he saw. His jaw tightened just slightly, the only sign that something beneath that calm surface had shifted, and for a moment neither of us spoke. Because there was too much history in that space, too many things left unsaid, too many things that could not be undone. You came alone, he said finally, not a question, more like a quiet accusation, and I forced a small breath out through my nose, keeping my voice steady even though my pulse had started to climb. I did not think I needed permission, I replied, and his eyes flickered, not anger, not exactly, something heavier, something closer to restraint. Like he was choosing his next move carefully instead of reacting, always controlled, always calculating. The same way he had been the night everything changed, the night that still lived somewhere between us no matter how much we tried to move past it. Behind him, the restaurant doors opened again, and the manager stepped out, his confidence returning now that he had an audience. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to step away," he began, his tone polite but firm. The kind of tone people use when they think they are in control of the situation. Adrian did not even look at him at first, his attention still on me, his hand lowering slightly, as if he was considering reaching for the handle of my chair, but stopping himself at the last second. Like even that small gesture required permission, he was not sure he had any more. "Did they ask you to leave?" he asked quietly, and I hesitated for just a fraction of a second before answering, because I knew the truth would change the air again. "They said I did not belong," I said, and that was enough. I saw it then, the shift, subtle but absolute, the way his posture straightened just a degree, the way the space around him seemed to tighten, like the world had just crossed a line it should not have. And when he finally turned his head toward the manager, it was slow, deliberate, the kind of movement that made people regret speaking before they even understood why. "Repeat that," Adrian said, his voice still calm, still even, but now carrying something underneath it that was impossible to ignore, not loud, not aggressive, just certain, the kind of certainty that did not ask twice. And suddenly the manager's confidence faltered, just enough to be seen, just enough to change everything that was about to happen. The manager opened his mouth, but nothing came out at first, like the words he had used so easily a minute ago no longer fit in his throat, and I watched the exact moment his confidence cracked. Just a thin fracture, barely visible, but enough, because men like Adrian did not need more than that. "Sir, I think there has been a misunderstanding," the manager said finally, his tone shifting, softer now, careful, like he was already trying to rewrite what had just happened, but Adrian did not blink, did not move, did not give him the relief of looking away. "Repeat it," he said again, and this time there was no room left for interpretation, no polite distance to hide behind. Just a quiet command that settled into the air and stayed there, heavy, waiting. The woman from inside stepped closer, the same one who had laughed, her heels clicking sharply against the stone as if sound alone could restore her control. "There is no need for this," she said, lifting her chin, her voice carrying that practiced confidence of someone used to being listened to. "We simply asked her to leave because this is a private establishment, and we expect a certain atmosphere." She gestured vaguely toward me, not even bothering to lower her gaze, like I was an object she did not need to acknowledge directly, and for a second, I thought Adrian might